All right, everybody, welcome back to Praetor Magic. My name is DM Cross, and hey, look, there's another card on this screen today. Oh, look, Phyrexian's back. Hey, buddy. Oh God, he's
Oh
dead.
yeah, I am here.
I was like, oh God, he's dead. He coughed right before we went live, and I was like, oh, that's gonna be a great way for you to come back. Come back, just choking and dying.
I apologize in advance for my voice.
Uh,
John gave me his illness somehow digitally.
I don't tell you, but I apologize for your voice every time on Twitter, so it's okay.
Ouch.
All right, we're here with Reflections of the Council. This is our weekly podcast that me and Once Upon a Time Phyrexian did with me every week, where we kind of just talk about whatever's going on in Magic. Now, of course, before we get too much into this week's topic, we want to remind you that we are now sponsored by our friends over at inkgaming.com. Make sure you are going there for all your custom playmats, dice bags, mouse pads, and more for everything you could want for customizing your gaming experience. Use the affiliate link that's down below the stream, or for those of you watching on YouTube, in the video description, or for those of you listening in podcast world, it's below the description, or it's in the description for this episode. So make sure you're also using our Praetor10 coupon code. That gives you 10% off your total purchase. That's PRAETOR10. And thank you very much for supporting the channel by going and, picking up the cool stuff. So, we do have a topic for this week. It's kind of similar to what I did solo last week. I answered some tweets about the Pioneer format. We're going to do something similar for this one. But for the past two episodes, I've been talking about wanting to surprise Phyrexian with something. Hey, Phyrexian.
Yep.
Have you seen or heard the last two episodes?
You're right. I just had a new kid.
Good. So this will be a surprise. So, on the very first episode that you missed, I started doing something new. It's a little opening segment, just kind of like warm up, the thinking process and everything like that. You know how we used to do pre-gaming, but we don't really do that because we do the pre-show now?
Yeah.
So it's kind of something similar to that. And the opening segment is called Kill on Sight. And what that is, for the first one, I did Kill on Sight Commander. And I basically said, what is a Kill on Sight Commander in my opinion? Why is it a Kill on Sight Commander? And then what would I expect somebody to do if they wanted to play that commander, whether they were trying to play like the reason why it's a Kill on Sight Commander or any other reason, like, and what they basically have to do if they plan on playing the commander. So for the first one, just as an example, I did Narset, Enlightened Master, which is a pretty nasty commander. I think we all know. The Jeskai legendary creature.
Yeah.
And I explained that, the reason why it's Kill on Sight is because once it gets going, it's very hard to stop. And once it's on the field, it's just in general hard to stop without a board wipe. And then the first swing is pretty much the one that kind of like locks up the field and makes it, the game's kind of over after that point, And then
Most of the time.
yeah.
Because most of the time the first swing leads to like 7 other swings.
Yeah. If the deck's built, the normal way. And then as far as for people wanting to play it but not wanting to play it that way, I pretty much said that you either have to play it that way or you have to have a lot of hard control to keep your commander around or slash keep it hitting the field, because I don't think it's going to if you don't play hard control. And I don't mean hard control in the way to normally play the deck. I mean like you have to have a lot of counters and stuff like that and protection for Narset past just, the fact that she's hexproof. I think you need like indestructibility and stuff like that. So then in the second episode, we did Artifact instead, just as something to switch it up. And I said the Great Henge because I think it's a stupid card that does way too much stuff. And if it resolves, like, you just put yourself astronomically forward. So for this one, we're going to do a commander again. I'm going to go first. That way you can see it live and in action. Then we're going to make you do one. So you get to think. But you got to come up with a Kill on Sight commander and why and what you would do if somebody wanted to play it, but they didn't want to get hated out the game. So for mine, to go on theme with what we're going to talk about today, and I'll pair these up in a minute, the one that I want to do is Teferi, Temporal Archmage, which is the mono blue Planeswalker version that can be your commander. And basically the reason why I think this is kind of a Kill on Sight commander is because when you see this in the command zone, you can assume that they're going to be running the Chain Veil and a bunch of mana rocks and have a way to basically do the Chain Veil combo and combo off, and then you never get to play the game ever again. So basically, and I think it's kind of worse because if they build it right, they'll do it all at once. So they'll play Teferi, play the Chain Veil, and then combo off if they do it correctly. sounds harder than it is, but especially now with a lot of the bluer card or a lot of the newer blue cards, like from war, so like Flux Channeler and stuff to get like counters up and everything. I think it's just easier and easier for this combo to get going, so it ramps up really quick. And as far as people who want to play this, I again, short of basically the whole like showing somebody your deck and saying, "Hey, I don't have Chain Veil in it," uh, it's a blue deck, so I think you just run again a lot of counters. That way people don't hate you out. Or you kind of use this to mask whatever your real combo is. So if you want to play a Teferi because like let's just say you like Teferi in general and you don't want to play one of the white ones, slash you don't want to play the mono blue creature version. Um, I think then you just basically kind of use this as bait. So people go after this instead of maybe like your life total and or like, you know, your permanents if they have just non-land permanent removal. That way you can basically set up whatever else it is you're doing on the side, especially if it's like some janky 5-card combo or something like that. That's how I think you play Teferi, if you don't want people to just automatically hit you out the game. Which, I mean, if you establish a 5-card combo and then try to play the second again, they might hit you out anyway. But so you, Phyrexian, what's a commander you would kill on site and why?
Zer. Because Zer. It
No,
almost,
no.
excuse me, it almost doesn't matter what kind of Zer they're running, whether it's Doomsday Zer or, you know,
Astral Slide?
Contamination Zer or Astral Side Zer. Every Zer deck I've ever played against has been miserable to play against, basically. Even the quote unquote fair Zer decks, they're just tutoring up things like Nevermore with Zer are still annoying
Yeah.
because it can just say, hey, Nevermore your commander on turn 4.
What about
Hope you didn't want to play that.
what about what is it? Isn't there an Infect Zer combo?
I think so. There's so many Zer combos.
Come on, but it's Infect Zer. Then it's okay, right?
No.
What?
Zer's just so lazy.
Is it because he's a tutor in the command zone?
Yeah.
Eh.
I mean, pretty much.
So if somebody wants to play Zer but they don't want to be hated out, what do you suggest?
I suggest you not play Zer.
Sometimes
I
that's
mean,
the only answer.
I think, and Zer might be the one case, and that's why I picked him. He might be the one case where that question doesn't have an answer.
Yeah, I kind of said that for Narset too.
Narset's hard, but I think you can almost convince people if they know you well enough, or you can be like, well, this is a budget Narset build, or oh, I'm not running extra turns Narset or something. Like you could almost convince people to maybe not target you immediately and try to kill you. Because there's that person in 3DH running Narset as like a token commander at one point.
That was Valdor,
Was that
and it was
Valdor?
still miserable.
Yeah, but it wasn't as miserable as regular Narset, let's be honest.
He played Narset, and then we kind of stopped playing the game after that. Like, I think.
So
Go ahead.
there are like exceptions, I guess.
Yeah. So the reason why I say it is because like it kind of felt like playing against a Brago deck at that point. I think. You know what I mean? Like he attacked, and
Yeah.
then it did so many other things that set everybody so far back that it didn't matter that it didn't infinite combo turnout. It just it warped the game in power levels so hard that what are you gonna do? What do you do at that point?
Yeah.
Except shuffle up.
Well,
All
I've definitely heard people say the true response to a Zer deck is to just go ahead and concede and say, okay, that's nice.
right. You did it. You did the thing.
You did it. You played Zer. We all concede. Good job. You want to play something else? No, then we don't play with you.
That's mean.
I mean, that's the true response to someone bringing a Zer deck to a table.
I've never played Zer. I don't think. John played Zer for a little while, and it wasn't like it was when we first got into Commander, so it wasn't super miserable because we didn't know like a lot of combos. It's like kind of when I first played my Krenko deck and I just had crappy goblins in it and not even enough of them, so it was like that. But it was still pretty strong. Like I'm not gonna deny it wasn't good, but it wasn't Z Zer ish ways. I think when it did start going toward that way, that's when I stopped playing it. So yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, Zer.
So for those of you who want to put your own ideas, if you're with us now on Twitch, feel free to say it in the chat. If you're watching on YouTube, feel free to leave a comment on what you think a kill on site commander is. And for those of you listening in podcast world, you can either hit us up on the Discord, go to YouTube and put a comment in the video, or hit us up on Twitter at twitter.com/Praetor Magic. So let us know what your thoughts are, and then we'll do these like every so often. I mean, we'll do these every episode, but we'll change it up. It's not always going to be a commander. Sometimes it might be a planeswalker. Sometimes it might be an artifact or something like that. Land. We should do land next. That'd be funny. What's a kill on site land? And it can't be like the obvious ones. It can't just be like, oh, God's Cradle. But all
Why
right,
not?
because that's too easy. We don't do easy here. Come on.
Fine, Dark Depths.
That's better, but we're not going to talk about that now. So
All right.
this week's topic, again, similar to how we did last week's topic, I reached out on Twitter. On what did I just say? Twitter or Twinter? I don't know what I said. So I reached out on Twitter and I made a post that said, I have it right here. Last week I asked the Magic the Gathering Twitter for Pioneer takes for reflections. This week I want your thoughts, opinions, gripes, praise, love, and hatred for Planeswalkers. Are they good, bad for the game? How would you change them? Give me everything you got, and then some emojis. So the reason why I did this is because it seems like lately I have seen a lot more comments in the community about Planeswalkers being bad. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It seems like everybody is going more toward a Planeswalkers are bad for the game so much, and then there becomes like a conversation of people defending them and whatnot. But for the most part, it's people going like, "Man, I just hate Planeswalkers," and it's kind of weird for me to hear it so much because I don't mind Planeswalkers. I know when I first got back into Magic in Return to Ravnica, I did not like them, but it was more because I didn't understand them than anything else. But now that I've been playing for 6-7 years or so with them, it's better. It's different. My mindset is different. I play a lot of Planeswalkers. There's a lot of Planeswalkers in my Muldrotha deck. I don't know, Phyrexian, what are your personal thoughts on Planeswalkers in like kind of a summarized view? Bro? Hmm. Okay. Maybe we have technical difficulties. Phyrexian, you there? Oh well. So I'll continue while he tries to probably get back. The main reasons I think that we're seeing a lot of Planeswalker hate is because of the way Standard is going right now. We just got over having Teferi Hero of Dominaria, which was a bigger Teferi, kind of dominating. Esper Control was a big thing because of it. Actually, Esper Control was a really good deck, and its two main closers were what? Kaya and Teferi. Then we started getting toward the end of Teferi's reign, right? When we were thinking about Teferi was going to rotate out, and then we got the 3-cost Teferi, 3-drop Teferi, Time Raveler from War of the Spark. And people hated that one due to the passive and the plus ability. Kind of very limiting, blah, blah, blah. I think also Narset kind of sparked a little bit of a hatred too. Narset part of Veils, where it's kind of like the Leovold problem all over again, where you play Narset and then you Windfall, and then everybody's miserable. I know in Oathbreaker, they talked very strongly about banning Narset. I don't know if they ever actually did, but they definitely talked about it. So I think that was kind of like the major things, and then New Dark Cloud actually already hit it up in the chat, where it's not so much even that they hate Planeswalkers, but they hate Oko. Oko Thief of Crowns being one of the new Planeswalkers is kind of like dominating. It's the turning things into Elks and stealing away like good abilities and everything like that. It's not even just standard now with Oko. I know somebody recently said that they won a vintage event with an Oko deck. So getting kind of
Hey,
crazy out there. Hey, I can hear you now.
I don't know. My mic did something weird.
Okay. So I'd asked you before, I don't know if you could hear me, but
I could hear you.
uh
You couldn't hear me.
so what are your thoughts summarized on Planeswalkers just in general?
I think in general, Planeswalkers are fine. I think the problem is just sometimes they get overambitious. with the Planeswalkers.
Mm-hmm.
Like definitely like any other card, you can make cards that are fine and you can make cards that are too powerful, right?
Yep.
I think the same thing happens with Planeswalkers. I think in general, like I think back to the original five, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Ajani Goldmane, Jace Bellerin, Garrick, Chandra, and Lily Vess,
Yep.
right? If you think back to those original five, none of them do anything particularly game breaking. None of them like were super great, but they were good. They gave value. They did things.
Yep.
The problem we get into is when we make them too good,
Such as.
such as some of the ones you've been mentioning, the
Okay.
Teferis, the Okos, the the ones, and when you combine them with cards like doubling, and of course too, that's just a problem
Yeah.
in itself.
So I've noticed this, and I've been noticing this since I went to make my Aminato deck. So Aminato being the Esper Planeswalker from 2 years ago or last year's Commander product, where I went to make a quote unquote Witch Coven deck where the witches of the coven were going to be other Planeswalkers. And when I started listing out the Planeswalkers I wanted and narrowing down to the ones that I thought were the best and everything like that. And Phyrexian, I think I even had you kind of look at this list. If you looked at it, a lot of them were War of the Spark Planeswalkers for one, so they had their passive abilities. And then two, most of the War of the Spark Planeswalkers that did make the list, all their passive abilities were denial. So it was Narset can't draw more cards. It was Teferi can't play instants. It was like Karn can't activate, artifacts for opponents and stuff like that. So I think some of the problem is that these planeswalkers are very denial based, and it seems like it's mostly like the blue ones are the ones that we tend to have, I think, the biggest problem with. Teferi, Oko now. People didn't like Narset, you know. Even Ashiok got
Yeah,
a little bit of hate. Which
you mean Splashiok?
yeah, like Ashiok got a little bit of hate during that standard, and didn't even see major play or anything like that. Wasn't in any top 8 decks as far as I know. But it was just the denial of these are all planeswalkers that are like very resource denial based, and again, they all have blue in them. So I don't know if that's a coincidence because I can't remember when's the last time a red planeswalker was a problem.
Well, I mean, people hate Tybalt, but it's for a completely different reason.
Well, yeah, not because he's good. They hate him because he's not good. They hate him for the
Yeah.
opposite reason.
Maybe what we should learn from this is just haters gonna hate.
Is that the answer?
Well, I don't know really if that's the answer. I think we're also going to a point where now we have 196 unique cards that are planeswalkers.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it also just comes down to a numbers game. The more cards you add of a certain type, the more cards you're gonna have problems with of a certain type.
Yeah, and it's also the volume in which they're adding things too, right? So,
Oh yeah, definitely.
like you even mentioned, they printed 5 at first, or the Spark had what 36 was it?
Yeah, it was
So
a lot.
yeah, that's a massive thing, and then like balance and issues and stuff like that come into play with R&D. So we get like the NAR sets, like what, like 4 of the ones I just rattled off were all from War of the Spark, where there was 36 other ones. I mean, even Nissa who shakes the world is kind of like known for being a little bit problematic, right? Isn't that one like a little crazy in Pioneer or something right now?
Yeah. I think that's why they banned
The Green
the
Ley Line.
Nissas. Well, the Leyline too, but I think also the Nissas, whatever the search one is.
Oath?
Yeah, Oath of Nissa.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't know what we're talking about anymore. Um, I don't know. I didn't really look at the notes on why they were banned, to be perfectly honest with you. War of the Spark
I
made
didn't
several
either. I was making
planeswalkers that will be commander staples until the end of time. You've already mentioned a few like Narset, Atshok, and Jace. I actually wish we would ban Narset. I think so. One, I think Leovold was a mistake. Never been
Yeah,
printed. Bad card.
which most people would agree because he's
I,
banned in a lot of formats.
we got him banned, right? Like, and then Narset just being another one. Even though I do think she's more fragile than Leovold because she's a planeswalker and there's more ways to kill them. More diverse ways. There's a more diversity of ways. Let me put it like that. Well, there's kill spells, there's burn spells, there's attacking. Like you can't attack creatures to get rid of them. You have to use one of the other ones. That's what I meant. A diversity of ways in terms of like platforms, methods,
I'll let you get away with that, I guess.
not number of. There's obviously more ways, more like there's a higher quantity
Cards.
of cards that do it, but there's different methods of killing a planeswalker. Because again, so I mean, actually, in a way, any creature that can attack Narset with enough power to kill her is another way. So if we wanted to get into quantities, I still might be right. However, comma space, I understand that it's not always like ideal to attack a planeswalker or even possible. I'm just yeah, you get my point though.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's what we think. And I know we've gone back and forth, I think, on this topic a couple times. So this is not really anything super new to us. But as I said at the beginning, I reached out on Twitter, Phyrexian's favorite platform for anything.
I think I will say another thing about Planeswalkers before we jump on Twitter is they are very good for branding.
That's true too. I mean, hey, Planeswalkers should be commanders, so there's that too.
Not saying that.
I'm saying that. I just said it.
The commander you just said was a kill on sight commander, so why do we need more?
They're not all that good. I ran Kiora, Behemoth Beckoner, and it wasn't really all that great at all. It's just dropping big creatures. And it's dropping medium-sized creatures. You have to have power 4 or greater. Like, relax.
Yeah.
To draw a card. It's not even that bad. I think Corvold's worse than Kiora, Behemoth Beckoner as a and she even has the untap ability. And she's still not as cool or as strong as Corvold. Yeah?
But anyway, Twitter. My favorite social
absolute
media platform of all the ones that I don't use.
the best, the most favorite of the best. So we got a bunch of replies back. I narrowed them down a little bit. Some of them, one person actually went like into a thread about their response, and I couldn't obviously capture it all. So unfortunately, we are not going to be able to address them unless we have time at the end. In which case, I'll go to my Twitter and try to read it out. However, I narrowed it down to like 8. So what I'm going to do is show them on the screen, and then we're obviously going to read them out for our friends out in podcast world. Then we're going to respond to them a little bit and maybe give our opinions on their perspective, not necessarily just on the topic all over again, because obviously that would get repetitive. But there were some interesting takes from this. There was a lot of interesting takes in the Pioneer one. That one I had like 15 or so tweets out by the end. But it was easier when I was just kind of talking myself because we didn't have this back and forth for the first 30 minutes of the stream. But
Sorry, did I talk too much?
You do every time. I can never get in a word in edgewise.
Oh yes.
I can't help it. I'm used to hosting things. I'm sorry. You can always just tell me, shut up, you're going to talk.
Nah, keep talking. Twitter. Go.
All right, so the first one comes from Caleb. He said, very much dislike them and the game states and play patterns they create. The number of pushed walkers in the last 6 to 12 months has honestly made me all but stop playing my favorite format, which was Legacy, which has led me to playing less Magic overall. So that kind of goes into, obviously Phyrexian and I are Commander players. We talk mostly about Commander almost all the time. We do try to kind of understand what's going on in other formats, if only for the sake of just addressing it. I didn't know what Planeswalkers are messing with Legacy. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, they're doing a lot of work, especially Narset and Oko.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
I would think that Narset
and Karn even the new Karn, just with the potential to go for the Mycosynth lock out of the sideboard.
I thought that was really big in Modern. I didn't realize it extended into
It,
Legacy.
that people even tried it in Legacy.
Wow.
I think it may have been LSV who even did a stream a while back where he ran a Legacy deck with like 4 Narsets, 4 Karns, a bunch of nonsense in the sideboard. It was someone from Channel Fireball. If it wasn't an LSV, it was one of the other ones. But they were like, that was a Legacy deck running 4 Narsets, 4 Karns.
Jesus. That's wow. And again, like you
And
mentioned
Urza. But
oh, never mind. I did hear about this deck. I just didn't know it was a big Planeswalker deck. I knew I heard about Urza kind of wrecking Legacy.
well, Urza's been running amok too, but he's
Yeah.
running amok with the help of these things. And like the whole idea of the deck was basically like you drop a Lion's Eye Diamond,
Mm-hmm.
sack your whole hand into that Aeon's, which is essentially Time Twister once it hits the graveyard because it has flashback.
Yep.
And so bidding your whole hand lets you, will. And if you have a Narset in play,
Yeah.
then you get 7 cards, your opponent gets 1.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a thing even in Legacy. Some of these Planeswalkers, not all of them, but some of them are
So
that
Zoko,
Leovold effect without a Leovold,
yeah. So it seems like Oko almost needs to be banned. I probably like the most because he's the one that I hear in all formats. He's in standard. Well, no, actually I haven't heard Oko being crazy in Commander. I heard he was a big deal in Pioneer, but I think that's also a little bit of people just not knowing how to build around him yet. The format's so new and fresh that, and he's a new card that I think people just haven't figured it out yet. And we'll see. I mean, again, like he's doing stuff in Vintage, so obviously he's good enough for formats that are more eternal than Pioneer. So maybe there aren't answers. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking that Pioneer probably has not settled as far as being a new crazy format, but yeah, I agree with Caleb's opinion though. It's been the last 6 to 12 months because that obviously does hit the Ravnica Planeswalkers, and again, we're naming a lot of those. With Oko obviously not being as old as 6 months, but so yeah, do we? I guess maybe the overall thought here is that the newer Planeswalkers maybe they have pushed them too hard. At least a few of them. Again, like nobody's complaining about new Tybalt or new Jaya Ballard or even all the new Chandras, but these like 5 or 6 or so, they just accidentally maybe made them a little bit too good. Maybe didn't check the synergies with all the old cards. Kind of makes you wonder: does R&D
It's
print?
hard
Hmm?
to do that.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was gonna say. Does R&D have a way of being able to print a card or design a card, I should say, with legacy or vintage in mind? Modern, they still support quite a bit. Vintage, I think they didn't they stop vintage support
I'm pretty sure there's no vintage support at all now yet.
minus like store run or like player run.
Yeah.
Legacy seems like it's going that way, especially now with the announcement for Pioneer. I would imagine in the next year or so they're going to basically say like, "Hey, Modern is now the oldest format that we're going to support." Sorry, guys. Um, so I wonder how R&D handles that kind of a question, if they handle it at all. Maybe they don't. Maybe they just this is what we're designing. It's in this bubble for standard. These are the sets it's going to hit, and we just have to design it within that bubble, and that's it.
Yeah.
All right. Next one is from Litvic. This was 2 tweets, and I just kind of chopped them up and put them together. Considering I just won a game with my friends where I was clearly losing, but I tutored up Ugin -5, cleared the board, won 1 or 2 turns after that. I love the concept of them. However, I understand the game states they create can be backbreaking. Another similar game I couldn't have won because of Planeswalkers, but did win because of Planeswalkers happened like a year ago now. Locked under Narset Emblem, used Jace Unraveler and Venser alongside some creatures, locked him out of the game he partially locked me into. so this was a spiteful, if I can't win the game, I'll make it so that you can't enjoy the game, which is
Yeah.
kind of funny. I don't know. So the first part of this, right? Tutoring up the Ugin. Ugin's kind of like a mainstay for being a good board wipe.
Yeah.
So I mean, like,
Ian's real good. especially if you're playing heavy color
Yeah.
yourself.
If you're
He
running
can be a
a
little problematic in other Super Friends decks just because so many of your planeswalkers are colored that he can just ends up being a board wipe to yourself.
I think most Super Friends decks tend to have white in there somewhere because it is a good supportive color in terms of like the tutors and everything. And I think probably like Urza's Ruinous Blast is probably better than an Ugin nowadays.
Yeah.
You can only do it once, minus obviously recurring it a lot. But
But Ugin definitely sees big play in like big green decks and stuff like that that
yeah,
don't have good options
yeah, that's
outside of Nevinyrral's disc and stuff like that.
even blue decks. I think like they have Cyclonic Rift and they have like the other mass bounce effects where like evacuation and whatnot. But obviously, Cyclonic Rift being the best one, which is starting to be an expensive card because I don't think they're ever going to reprint it. Uh, which is weird that Ugin isn't nearly as much because it's an older card and they're probably not going to reprint him either. But anyway, um, but yeah, like I believe Ugin even in red decks when you can't deal with one blue and red do well with artifacts in general. So you might be running a colorless deck or have a lot of colorless stuff that you'll get to keep, and most people will not recover as well as you. And then yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But
but
it's
those
definitely
like
very, again, we're naming like, we're into this situation though where we keep on naming very specific planeswalkers or
yeah.
very specific ways planeswalkers can be abused. Whereas,
Well, do you think?
is this all planeswalkers are a problem or just certain planeswalkers are a problem?
Well, so in the second tweet they mentioned Narset emblem. So I'm guessing this is OG Narset, right? Because new Narset doesn't have an emblem, which I
Yeah.
forget what's OG Narset's emblem. I can't remember.
Counter something or
So her -9 is you get an emblem with your opponents can't cast non-creature spells,
yeah.
which is
I
a
knew it
pretty
was
big
something like that.
locking piece, right?
Yeah.
So I could see that being problematic. Narset in general is problematic. Let's go with that. There's 3 iterations of her, and they're all mean.
Well, I think we've talked about before that emblems
Yeah,
themselves are just problematic.
yeah. Emblems as they currently exist are not a good design. Either they shouldn't do them anymore, or they should find a way, even if it's sparing, they should find a way to deal with emblems.
Which I kind of thought that when they did the static effects in War of a Spark, that was their way of getting away from emblems. But
Right up
then they
until
printed Planeswalkers since that have emblems.
yep,
So it's
yep,
like,
and
what are you doing, Wizards?
and because of how quickly the printing was, like I really don't know how to take it because static effects, and then immediately the next set was emblem on a plus ability. That was another thing too to make it so easy to do. That was the part that kind of set me off. Was like you guys did so well. You did so well with not having a crap ton of horrible emblems for the game. Even like a backbreaking ultimate like Liliana Dreadhorde Commander or General or whatever the hell her name is,
Yeah.
where like you sacrifice everything but one of each permanent type, including lands. Like that's a
Yeah.
backbreaking ult, but it's not an emblem that you cannot handle. So but yeah, so I mean, talking again about emblems and stuff like that. You mentioned before we're talking about specific planeswalkers being abused. Do you consider Ugin to be an abusable planeswalker, or do you think he's just good?
I think Ugin's just good. I don't think he's abusable.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we were kind of differentiating there. But
He's real good, especially if you can find a way to have him stick around.
yeah,
Like you can drop him in -5 in this situation and keep him plus him after that.
hmm
He can be real good, but
yeah, especially if you're
he's
plussing
not.
to remove threats that would lower him.
Yeah.
So you're building him back up while keeping him safe.
But he's not
Crazy.
crazy broken.
Yeah.
Now, granted, if you can drop him with the doubling season,
You in the doubling season, you're gonna get you're just on the
I'm
path.
talking. If you're talking about planeswalkers, you cannot talk separate from doubling season.
Yeah, you can. You just ban it.
Well, that would be the answer,
And
but
then we could have
as long
planeswalkers
as
as
doubling season
commanders.
is not banned, every planeswalker and every ultimate for every planeswalker, every minus ability, like DM Cross has right here with you get an emblem on his -8, has to be said, hey, doubling season makes him 10. He can ult when he comes into play. So
Listen here,
DM
you.
with a doubling season can ult when he comes into play. So he fails the doubling season.
But I would ban doubling season.
All right.
All
Let's
right.
comment on planeswalkers because that one kind of listed a couple places.
Yeah.
The difference between good planeswalkers and broken planeswalkers and emblems suck.
All right.
They do, but I mean, when I'm building Super Friends decks, I definitely play to abuse them. So I'm not gonna lie.
Oh wow, rude. So this one is from New Dark Cloud. I did say you were going to make an appearance, and here you are. It seems like your
Ooh.
opinion of planeswalkers is largely dependent on when you started. Old school players tend to dislike them, but people like me who are relatively new love them. They're basically module, easier to remove enchantments. So, what's your take on this? I want to get your opinion on this before I go on my spiel. Do you agree with this?
Um,
Disagree?
I don't know because I definitely know like more old school players who've been playing forever who still like planeswalkers,
Mm-hmm.
and I definitely know new players who hate them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think planeswalkers in general are kind of a complicated card to get your mind around, so they have a higher like
Range.
level of entry
Yeah.
when
Okay.
you're getting them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see them as modal easier to remove enchantments for the most part, because most enchantments are not as powerful as planeswalkers,
Yeah.
and they don't give you options. Which I know that's where the modal comes in, but
Not as many,
yeah,
obviously. Like planeswalkers are based in having options, whereas enchantments are not. There are some enchantments out there that do, but they're very few and far between. There's nowhere near the numbers of planeswalkers in general. Like just like
yeah, as enchantments. I don't
yeah.
know, but I mean, I don't know that they're easier to remove either in some ways.
eh, you can attack them. You can't attack your enchantments.
That's true, but
I'm just saying.
I mean, I know there are certain colors that can't deal with enchantments at all. Black, red, Rakdos. I'm looking at you, but
Rakdos can now. They have Enchanter's Bane. Come on now. And Chaos Warp.
yeah,
And Meteor
yeah,
Golem that they can recur.
yeah.
Can't handle enchantments. My next deck's gonna be a Rakdos deck, and all it does is have ways to
Is
handle
destroy
enchantments.
enchantments.
Yeah. Danny's gonna be in the game playing Bat Enchantment or her Bat Enchantress deck, and I'm just gonna be like, haha, nerd! You ain't keeping shit. So
I've
for
never seen planeswalkers as enchantments and static abilities on them. Now, when they printed static abilities, it
Mhm.
very much seemed like you had an enchantment printed on top of your planeswalker that then did some other stuff too.
What about the ones that only tick down? The uncommon ones? Do
I don't even
those
say that. It's an enchantment that does something else too.
well so sagas are enchantments that have different abilities that are
Yeah.
timed, right? So that was a lot of people's connection when they did the War of the Spark ones, were like, oh, these are kind of like sagas, and that's not that bad because you can only go so far down. Now, obviously, in Commander, that's not true. Even in Standard, that's not 100% true because we again had Flux Channeler and the Sage Evolution or Evolutionist Sage,
Evolution Sage.
yeah,
Yeah.
as ways to proliferate, and then Karn's Bastion as ways to proliferate back up. So it wasn't a 100% the only way is down, but it was largely like that. So they were a little bit more like sagas, don't you think?
Yeah.
And sagas are still relatively new, right? So I don't think that's a super bad comparison. I think that's fair-ish. They're not exactly the same. I'm not trying to say like, oh yeah, this is as easy or as good or as bad as a saga, but I think that's a fairly close comparison overall. So with this, when I first saw this comment from New Dark Cloud, I instantly agreed because a lot of the times when I have the discussion about planeswalkers as commanders, a lot of the people that I find arguing with me are the folks who have been playing, since alpha, since beta, blah blah blah. Now, don't get me wrong, because I've been playing for I started playing like a couple of years after the game came out when I was a little kid. Now, I wasn't playing at the level of some of the people that I talked to were playing. Some of the people that I talked to, like I was 8 when I started playing. So obviously I was not nearly as into the game as like people who were playing when they were in their 20s at the same time and have been playing for, 25 years now. So, but those are the folks that I thought of instantly when I read this, of people who hate Planeswalkers, and they do the whole Planeswalker, like Wizards printing Planeswalkers ruin the game, quote unquote, blah blah blah. Right? Like they're reaching back to like the time before Planeswalkers. I actually just saw, I forget exactly who it was, but on Twitter, it started going around, and I think it started going around because I think the professor kind of promoted it, not promoted it, I should say, but he retweeted it and agreed with it, I should say, is how it came out. But somebody made a joke image about Pioneer will now ban all Planeswalkers that would be legal from the sets. So everything from Return to Ravnica forward, any Planeswalker was banned, in addition to everything else, the fetch lands, and then anything pre-Return to Ravnica. And he's like, wow, if you wanted me to support Pioneer, this is how to do it. So it's like stuff like that. Those are the kind of people that I thought of from this comment, where it's like, yeah, it does seem to be the case. But then, Phyrexian, you saying that there's a lot of new players that hate Planeswalkers, I think is coming from the push Planeswalkers. So the Teferis, the Narsets, the Okos. I think that's where we're seeing a lot of the newer players hate them, and it's because they are those super strong denial ones. And I really do think that's... I hate stacks in general. I hate stacks effects in general. I hate you can't do a thing. I hate that in Magic. Like, you could do... If you do a thing, you get punished for it. You could do a thing, but it's not as good. But when it's straight up...
You can't do a thing at
Yeah.
all.
When it's straight, you don't play the game, I'm like, well, then why are we here? So I get kind of like the newer hate for some of the Planeswalkers that did feel like that. But, and again, I'm an older player. I hate some of the newer Planeswalkers, but then there's some of the older ones that I love, and there's some of the newer ones that I love too. All right.
Oh, no new dark.
I saw that. That's like the thing to do, I think, now with Torbrand is mono red stacks. All right. So this one is from Doolittle 48s. I love them and think they're great additions to the game. My biggest complaint is their power level. A lot of them come into play a little too early and aren't easily removed. If more board wipes affected Planeswalkers or more interaction was made for them, they'd be fine. Wizards' idea of just attack the Planeswalkers to kill them isn't good enough in a lot of situations, and they can pretty easily run away with games, especially outside of multiplayer formats. So that's interesting outside of multiplayer formats, because I think there's less stopping you, I think. Because you don't... A Planeswalker played into a multiplayer game where you have to commit attackers to get rid of it, which then leaves you open to the next person, not just your opponent that you're attacking the Planeswalker of. You know what I mean? Like, there's exponentially more threats in a multiplayer format. So it's interesting to see somebody like, oh, well, outside, like in single player or dual player formats, they run away pretty easily then. I don't know how much I agree with that. I do know a lot of people don't like the attack the Planeswalkers to kill them thing that Wizards kind of like, that's their motto. It's like, oh, they can't be that strong, you just have to hit them. And then we saw in Esper
But
Control,
you can
like,
make it really hard to hit
yeah.
them.
Well,
And
that's
the
what I was
fact
even gonna
that it's
say.
true that you print so many board wipes that don't hit Planeswalkers. So
Yep.
you can clear all those creatures off the board. You can even drop in a Chroma's Vengeance and clear all the artifacts, creatures, and enchantments off the board, but Planeswalkers are still around.
Yeah.
Everything else except your lands just died unless you owned a Planeswalker.
Yep. And a lot of times those Planeswalkers will be the way that they rebuild.
Yeah.
So I think so. What's your opinion though on the way removal has been designed though in the past? And I'm just going to use 6 to 12 months because we had that one comment that was the person saying that's how far it was pushed. So in the past 12 months to, or a year to 2 years. Let's just call it that instead. Uh, I think the removal for Planeswalkers has been much better.
It
Everything
has.
from like they even changed the rules of target creature or player for the most part is now any target to make sure
Yeah.
that it can hit Planeswalkers. Like they changed the redirect rules and everything, and ratted all those cards. So like that was a huge step too in getting rid of the stigma that all Planeswalkers are so hard to interact with. So do you not agree with that mindset, or am I kind of on the right track?
I think that those are valid points. I think that they've gotten better. I do agree with Doolittle here that more board wipes that hit planeswalkers would be
Hmm.
good because, like, even our game we were playing last night, or not last night, but
Saturday.
Saturday night, you were like talking to John, like, "Hey, John, you got merciless eviction?"
Yeah.
When I stacked up all those planeswalkers, and it's like we honestly can't kill them all by just attacking them
Yeah.
because he's just gonna board wipe with that damnation in his hand. So it's like we need the board wipe that I can think of that actually kills all those planeswalkers. Is there another board wipe that kills all planeswalkers other than Merciless Eviction?
Uh,
Mm,
there's a few you have to. That's what I was
like
actually.
planar cleansing, I guess.
Yeah.
With those all permanents, there are some that hit everything, right?
There's a few. I'm actually trying to. So I
There are a
have.
few, but
So if I search Scryfall for text that says destroy all non-land permanents, I find 10 cards. So there's Boompile, Child of Alara, Fortunate
oh
Few,
gosh, no, don't even.
Coercive Portal, Hour of Revelation, Maelstrom Pulse, Plague Boiler, Oblivion Stone, Planar Cleansing, and then okay, there's an unstable card, an unhinged card in here. So there's 9 total wipes that destroy all uh non-land permanents. I feel like there's a couple missing too, but there you go. And then there's got to be a few that return, right? Return all non-land permanents to their owner's hand, because that's at
Yeah,
least a
I mean,
reset.
there's Cycrypt and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean that's I. It's like Grift is the best mono blue spell, right?
Well, yeah.
There's 12 cards where the text includes return all non-land permanents, but I think some of these are not 100% correct. Yeah, like Detention Sphere is things that share a name with it, so that's kind of like not the right mindset. Crush of Tentacles, Devastation Tide, uh Flood of Tears? Yeah, Flood of Tears, River's Rebuke for one person. Sudden Disappearance is one person.
Devastation Tide does it, right?
Yeah,
Did you say that one?
yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Added Cyclonic Rift, not open this.
But I mean, main thing is there aren't a lot of them, and these you look at unless you're magical hacker, don't see a lot of play. How many people are playing Plague Bowler in their commander deck? How many people are playing Boom Pile if you aren't magical hacker in your commander decks? And even Boom Pile, it's like you gotta win the flip or lose the flip or whatever it is for it to happen. And Coercive Portal, people have to vote the right way for it to happen. And like the only ones that really come down to this are Hour of Revelation and Planar Cleansing. And our sees a good amount of play in decks running a lot of white.
Yeah.
But even Planar Cleansing, I don't think sees a lot of play in um, like non-mono white decks. And even mono white decks, I don't think played a ton because they're
uh,
just better board wipes in general, more efficient board wipes.
I think it's probably like a meta call at that point. Planar
Yeah,
Cleansing sees play in 3,270 decks.
it's just terrible, I guess. But
And of the top commanders, there are
Avison,
3. Well, yeah. Of the top commanders, though, there are 3 that are not mono white, though. And one of them's banned.
which one's that?
Iona.
Oh, No.
Yeah, for people who are monsters.
Yeah, monsters. Terrible people who would ever play Iona deck.
You did, didn't you?
Yeah.
So, I just want you to know that when this episode comes out on YouTube and podcast world, I'm going to tag Hacker in this one so that he can admire how much you reference him.
Just because of Boompile and his inordinate love for mono white decks and Boompile.
He did love Boompile. He does.
He still does. I mean,
He just talked about it on Twitter today. Anyway.
Oh gosh.
Back to Twitter. Back to Twitter. All right. This one is Justin J. When I started playing Magic early 2011, Planeswalkers were always a thing, so I don't really have a point of reference from before. However, if I can compare 2011 to now, I can honestly say that Planeswalkers have become an integral part of my experience in Magic. Planeswalkers taught me better threat assessment, and with the coming years since, removal of Planeswalkers has gotten significantly better. So this kind of we kind of addressed a little bit of this in the past couple of comments, but I like the threat assessment.
Oko's lead elk. So I'm not sure if we can take his seriously
here. Listen here, just be some people are just high on the Oko, all right? You know? They're local for Oko.
But yeah, go ahead. I just had to make that joke really fast. You continue.
Yeah. Well, no, I like the idea of the threat assessment coming into play. Even if you are eventually determining that the Planeswalker is not the thing to hit, like the fact that you have to sit there and think about it, I think that's cool. I like complicated board states. I like complicated battle and combat and stuff like that. Like that to me is why we play the game, or why we play the game. Why we play this format is to have those more confusing things. Not just for like the big splash of the explosive stuff, but for like the nitty-gritty detail stuff where you really have to think about what you're doing before you do it. Those are some of my favorite moments, either because somebody had a trick and it was a blowout and it was cool to see, or because like at the end of the day we did the math and it took a long time, but like, hey, somebody was right. You know, like I like that kind of stuff. So I might be a little biased here, and I admit it, but I mean I agree with this comment, is that they do teach you better threat assessment. They teach you to think more. I don't even want to say threat assessment as much as they force you to think a little bit more critically, whether you're good at assessing threats or not. And there are some people who just aren't. Just like some people aren't good at assessing cards, like Boompile.
But anyway.
And then
I don't know.
Go ahead.
I agree with his statement. The removal has gotten significantly better.
Actually, yeah.
I don't know that Planeswalkers teach better threat assessment or worse threat assessment. I think often people underestimate certain Planeswalkers, because this is what we were talking about again on Saturday night, where you're looking at the incremental value of all the Planeswalkers adding up, as opposed to, oh, that Planeswalker is doing something really big and splashy right now. And sometimes people miss that and don't even realize that they really need to take out a Planeswalker.
Yeah.
Or they just pick the wrong Planeswalker to take out.
I don't know. I still agree with getting rid of that Nissa.
Game where I was playing my, Angus McKenzie Super Friends, and someone lit a Dovin Bond ultimate because he just ignored it. So because he didn't consider that to be the scariest effect, as the non-creature one from it was either non-creature one or Jace. It's like, yes, okay, you never untap more than 2 lands. Gotcha, fine. Let's do that.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, in that particular situation, like, there was a lot of hard choices there.
Yeah.
I don't think they were going to do, because I remember we recorded that one for a narrated video. So I remember kind of watching it. I'm like, I don't think they get out of this one way or the other. Because I questioned their choices too. But then when we were done with the game and we were sitting talking, and you and I were even both saying like, hey, we probably shouldn't have let the Dovin Bond just go off. Like, sitting there thinking about it, I'm like, but what would they have done if, the other cards had gone off?
Yeah. So basically, if you couldn't stop both from going off, you're just screwed. So just pick the one you want to be screwed by more.
Yeah. Which one do you think you have a better chance against, I guess? Which I don't know in the end that they made the right choice, but I didn't know what was in their hand. So, All right.
I think they definitely didn't make the right choice for the table. Whether they made the right choice for them or not,
Yeah.
different story.
And that's another thing too, is that a lot of times it's harder in Commander because you do have again, like the threats and the choices are exponentially more because there's two other people that you have to consider, and like they multiply the variables and not adding. You don't add like another set of variables. You multiply the complexity by those sets of variables. In my opinion, I'm not a math teacher, but
No,
neither
I
are
would
you.
agree. Not anymore, yeah. I would agree that you definitely add a lot more possibilities than just like 1 + 1 = 2. Oh, there's another one. That's 3. Oh, there's another one. That's 4.
Yeah.
Because you're definitely dealing with a situation where it's like, well, I see what's on the board, but I don't know what's in their hand of 5, their hand of 3, their hand of 7. I don't know how this person's going to respond if I deal with him and deal with his threats. Does that make me the most threatening player at the table? And all of a sudden, the other 2 people are after me, and he's after me because I just screwed with his stuff.
Yeah.
It definitely makes it more complicated, the politics of it.
Yeah. Which again is what I
And
like
then
about the game.
I mean, and that's where it comes down to like making deals stuff and then trusting people to honor those deals, which they don't always do.
Yeah, who would ever do that?
I mean, I think we've all broken a deal playing a game of Commander at one point or another.
Depends on
Or
on your
maybe
perspective of it.
even not, maybe broken's the wrong word, but given the deal in such a way that was interpreted one way when you actually meant it another.
Yeah, I'm definitely. Listen here, don't you, John? Stop talking to him. All right, let's try to get these last 3 kind of quickly so that we can
Oh,
end this
okay.
up.
Sorry, I didn't realize we had so many more to go.
Yeah, we got 3 more. So
Let's do it.
Orcish Librarian said, I don't love all game states they create, but they have the biggest factor on Magic's growth over the last decade, and that's a good thing. Or I'm sorry, they have been the biggest growth factor. I think this goes into a little bit more of the flavor of it, though. Like, people like the characters. People relate to them. People relate to Jace or to Nissa or to Liliana or maybe to Oko. We don't know enough about him for I think people to relate to him, and I think people hate him too much. But I think that's kind of where we're going with this one, is that, like, you can get attached to these characters, especially because they can go between worlds. Like that's a big selling point, I think, for Planeswalkers in general, is that you can like Jace in Dominaria, and then when you hear that we're now going to Eldraine, you don't have to be like, oh, well, I'm gonna miss my character, because there's a good chance he might show up, because that's possible. So I think that's a big factor too.
Or Garrick randomly showing up in Eldraine. There he is.
It wasn't random. He was hunting stuff or things or whatever.
But anyway, this comes back to the point I made earlier on about they are great for branding.
Yeah.
Whatever else they may be, they are great for branding for Magic. And it's a great way to brand. And just being able to reprint a card with the same name with some different abilities, they're somewhat similar and in the same vein. It's good for the game in that respect.
I mean, you even mentioned
and people become attached to them, whether it's Jace, whether it's Lily, whoever it is. And then you can write your stories around them and everything else.
You even mentioned the original 5 who are still around. And, like, how much of a feel-good moment do you think people had when people were clamoring for Groog? People were upset when Groog wasn't in War of the Spark. People were mad that Wizards said that, oh, Nicopolis didn't want to attract Groog. And people were like, oh, that's such a cop-out. And then here not only do we get Groog back, but then we get him, like, back to who he was before Liliana's cursing him. So, like, that was a big moment for a lot of people. It was all over Twitter when that card got revealed. People were so happy, and like that's not just like, oh, it's a good card mechanically. People were happy that their character was affected in a positive way. Yeah, like is back the way they wanted him to be, back to his OG self.
I'm not gonna lie, I played Storm just so I could play that group. He's in my deck. Jeez. He didn't get seen played on the screen, but he's in my deck. And that's the reason I played Store of Super Friends, was so I could play him, and I had a...
So, he could be your commander if Planeswalkers could be commanders. But anyway.
I mean, yeah, he would be if he could be. Yeah. I would run that group as a commander.
That'd be good. I would like that. Anyway, before we go down the rabbit hole.
Okay.
So this one's kind of a funny one. This one is less for us to respond to and more for us to laugh about. / I think it's kind of a cool point. Mana, power, respect. You just thought. Replied with an image. Posting this dumb meme I made wherever I can. For those of you who can't see it in podcast world, it's the change my mind guy, and his sign says, "Death touch should kill planeswalkers. Change my mind."
I agree, 100%.
Death touch, right? Like if you could kill a creature, you should be able to kill.
Yeah.
New Dark Cloud says, "Do you really want to make Narset legal to run as your commander?" I think we should just ban her. Even with Planeswalkers not. I don't think.
I think Narset is on the ban train in a lot of, or at least like even restricted in formats.
Yeah.
I think she's just on that train.
Yeah. I think we should just ban her out of Commander at least. I really don't, again, like selfish me, but I don't care about Modern or other formats, but I think we should just ban her.
I think she's on her way to being restricted in the Legacy, at least, if not banned.
Yeah.
She's making that big of a splash. She's in that many decks right now.
I'd do it. And again, like, so people always bring this up, just 1 minute. People always bring up like this, doubling season, and a few other things, and like, oh, would you want to give up this in order to make this change? And my answer is always yes, because the change that we would make is exponentially larger than the things that we would lose from the bannings. Just saying. Like, even doubling season.
So.
Huh?
I don't think what we'd lose is, like, doubling season doesn't have that much of a niche outside of Super Friends decks.
Yeah.
Yes, it's good for tokens and other things too, but tokens have other ways. Parallel lives, anointed procession if you're in the right colors. They have other ways to do it. No, there are other cards that fill that. Doubling season is uniquely better for planeswalkers.
Yep. And it's already stupid in Super Friends decks in general.
It's planeswalker decks. It's not because of 1/1 counter decks or stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. All right. That was our 1 minute. So last one. Okay. This one is from Capes Crusader, which, by the way, is a fantastic name. For me, they're pretty awful. They make the game about them and the things that interact with them, i.e. creatures mostly. And I feel like formats have become way more homogeneous after their introduction. I get the upsides from a Wizards of the Coast perspective, but fun gameplay matters too. I think this is kind of this is the one comment, and I specifically put this one in here because I absolutely disagree with it. Even if you don't like Planeswalkers, I don't think they make the game just about them. I think the game has been about them for a long time. They've been the bombs in the game for a long time. Now, if you're saying that they've been doing that since their creation, then I guess kind of, sort of. But
no. The first 5 Planeswalkers, again, were not bomby cards.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if you want to say that since the introduction of Planeswalkers, they have started slowly warping the format, sure. But since artifacts stopped being crappy from way back when, every time we have an artifact-centric plane, it's a shit show.
And like, creatures.
Huh?
Like, this thing of how terrible creatures were, and now how great creatures are.
Yeah. I mean, just, like, we just have so many, like, there's just power creep in the game. It has to happen. Yeah. You cannot print the same stuff at the same power level for 25 years and expect people to stay interested. And that this goes back to the comment that we had before about somebody mentioned it depends on when you started playing. To a degree, I want to agree with that, and initially I did, like I said, because so many of the people that I argue with Planeswalkers as commanders, Planeswalkers in Commander in general, are people who have been playing forever, and they're like, oh man, I wish things were just back the way I wanted to play. And I think a lot of people don't understand that the game has got to evolve. Like, you may want to play like that, and if you get your group of friends to agree to play like that, that's great. That's fantastic. I think that's a good thing to happen too, because you do have people, you will have a group of people across the whole format who are in for nostalgia of the way the format or the game used to be. That's fine. But the growth of the game and the growth of the format, I think, is largely dependent on power creep. To get more people interested, whether it's new players to the game or new players to the format. People are not going to go play like these crazy cards in Standard and come to a battle cruiser format if that's what EDH was. I don't think they would enjoy it. They'd be like, well, where's my interaction? Blah, blah, blah. Where's this? Where's that? And I don't think people would flock to Magic as much as they do if we didn't creep it up in power.
Yeah.
It's just not as flashy, and it's not as catchy, and it's not as...
People would not be satisfied with, 7 mana 4/4s anymore.
Yeah. And it's not just because they printed, 7 mana or 4 mana 4/4s. That's not the only reason. It's just because eventually, like, you can only run those ideas for so long. Eventually, you do have to have better stuff than what was before. Otherwise, you're just printing the same stuff, and the game wouldn't last 25 years or more. As we go in, obviously, into hopefully the next 25 years and then some. The game wouldn't last that long if you didn't do new things. You have to do new things. And I think Planeswalkers were a new thing at one point. They're not as much a new thing anymore, but we're still finding different design space with them, which we've proven with the War of the Spark Planeswalkers, with transforming Planeswalkers. Whether it's...
flip Planeswalkers were a big change. But
yeah. Go ahead.
I think, like, in general, my opinion is on Planeswalkers the same as any other type. In general, I don't think they're good or bad for the format. I do think that there are certain things, i.e. emblems, that they need solutions for. And either that or stop doing it. One of the two. Give us a solution for it. Give us a way to get rid of emblems. Printing them.
Or the emblems have to be massively less powerful.
Yeah. Because most of the emblems are super powerful.
Yeah.
There are exceptions. But
even like I forget which Shorn it is, whether it's Solemn Visitor or Lord of Innistrad, where he just, like, his minus is every get an emblem where creatures you control get +1/+1. That's not crazy. Like, if it adds up, it can be kind of like nuts, but by itself, even doing that a couple times, so all your 1/1s or 3/3s, like, okay. Board wipes are still a thing. If you don't have creatures, they don't matter.
But I'd say that just like any other, like, Wizards of Splendid Planeswalkers that were mistakes. Like Jace, Mind Sculptor.
What do you mean?
And they banned him. And they'll ban or restrict other Planeswalkers as necessary. And there are some that they printed that are mistakes.
Narset.
I think Narset's one of them.
Yeah.
With her static ability. Yeah. I think that static ability in general is just a mistake. I don't think that ability needs to be in Magic.
Yep.
Not with all the wheels and everything else in every other way. And card draw being as important to Magic as what it is, to limit a player in that way just hurts too much.
Yeah.
Especially when there's so many cards printed that can be broken with it. I know a lot of those cards aren't in standard, but here we are,
I think the thing that upsets me, and this will be my last take before we go into the outro. I think the thing that upsets me the most about Narset is that, like, by the time they were designing War of the Spark, like, Gavin Ver, he's already said, like, hey, we do start now trying to design cards with at least Commander in mind, because it's become such a big format for them. So, like, I don't think they printed Leovold with Commander in mind. I really don't. I think they printed it with the bubble of Conspiracy. Because in Conspiracy, like, is he, really good? Maybe. Is he the backbreaking card that he is in Commander? No. But the fact that Narset was designed after a point where they are more Commander orientated from design points, like, that annoys me. Like, you saw the RC ban this other card out. Granted, like, he could be in the command zone and Narset can't. But why would you do this again? Like, why did you have to try it again? But that's my one take as far as Narset being a mistake. So that's gonna be it for this week. We went a little over time, but that's because you guys had such good comments. You should give us more comments by following us on Twitter at twitter.com/Praetor Magic, or joining us in Discord, which you can find a link to down below, either this stream, this video, or in the podcast description. Before we go, again, Phyrexian, I came up with another segment. You want to hear what it is?
Sure.
You seem so interested. It'll be really quick, I promise. I
Okay.
called this one Breaking the Mold, and what I did was last week, I just started it last week. I picked a ability, and I said, what commander would be super scary if it had this ability in addition to everything else it has? So last week I did Haste, and I said, if True Lane had Haste, holy shit. Because then, like, you basically just don't play him until you have the mana to activate him, and between Vigilance and Haste, you just never get to remove him ever. So if you could give any one Planeswalker the commander text, what do you think would be the scariest thing? I know what you want to say immediately. I know what your impulse say is, but if you really think about it, is that the one? He's thinking so hard. He's in the tank. I got him with
Yeah, I
this one.
mean, I feel like the convenient answer is Narset,
Yeah.
but
No, it's all right. I'll let you cop out. No,
I mean, honestly, because you run Narset, you run a bunch of Time Twister, Time Spiral effects.
Yep. I do think Narset
What
is
Jimmy would do.
probably the best answer for this particular question. If Narset had the text that she could be your commander, especially like imagine if I don't know how Oathbreaker does this. I don't know if they banned Narset. I think if they didn't, they should. But yeah, it's Leovold all over again for cheaper. Well, no, Leovold was 3, right?
He was 3, just
Yeah, but he was 3 colors, whereas this is monocolor. That's what I guess
yeah.
I'm trying to say. Narset is still legal in Oathbreaker. Oh my god, those poor people. But yeah, it's Leovold, but one color, and it's the color that does the thing. It's not like it's in mono black where like your best wheels are gonna be Dark Deal and Teferi's Puzzle Box. It's in blue. God forbid it was in red. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, if it were printed like that, it would definitely break Commander until it got banned. Hence the term breaking the mold. All right, guys, that is it for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. Phyrexian, did you have fun? You glad to be back?
I wish my voice was a little bit better, but I wish that every week, apparently.
I was gonna say, like, I mean, if it makes you feel any better, I haven't stopped wishing it since we started. No, it was good to have you back. It's always a little nerve wracking when you're not here because I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna fill the time, and I'm not talking to anybody, so like I can't take breaks or anything. And God forbid I want to drink water. Oh my god, it's the most awkward thing when you're not here, and I go to take a drink, and then everybody's just kind of like watching me. I'm like, hi guys. Here's the silence. Ready? Ready?
There it was.
There it is. The silence. All right. If you are listening to us on YouTube, please make sure you like and subscribe. Leave us a comment for your opinions as far as the Kill on Sight commander and the Breaking the Mold. What would a scary Planeswalker be if it could be your commander? Make sure you're then following us on Facebook.com/Praetor Magic, Twitter.com/Praetor Magic, Instagram.com/Praetor Magic, and following us or joining us on the Discord, which you can find a link to in the description down below. Make sure you also visit our sponsors of inkgaming.com. You can find our affiliate link down below, and make sure you're using the Praetor10 coupon code. Until next time, my name is DM Cross. He's Phyrexian Walker. He hates his voice. See you next week. Peace.